Welcome back to Chasing Prophecy in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We're live on multiple platforms. So I'm so glad you're here with us tonight. And I'm glad we have John Ventry back in the house. So good to see you, John. I hope you're well.
Yeah, everything's good.
That's good. That's great. There's so much stuff going on out there between, the elections and cover-ups with Charlie Kirk and Three Eye Atlas. But tonight, we'll get to that later today. But tonight, we're going to deep dive into the realms of spiritual how do you say that? Hypertherapy with Craig. I'm probably screwing up his name, Meriwether, founder of the Sacred Mystery Hypnotherapy. Craig guides people on a profound inner journey, exploring past lives. So I know we talked about past lives on all our, evenings and podcast history since we've been on those 6 years. But we always delve into that, and a lot of people believe it. Some people don't believe it. So we're going to explore that too tonight with Craig, and he's going to talk about connecting with our spirit guides and uncovering soul contracts. Now, I don't know what that means, and we're going to find out. And I hope you're in the chat. I hope you have lots of questions, because this is going to be a powerful conversation, and we're going to discuss a lot of stuff to help people. And, we're going to help people access the healing, unresolved traumas from our past lives, connect with ancestors and spirit guides. John, how do you feel about this spirit guide stuff and all this past aggression before we bring on our guest?
Well, from a Catholic faith, they say stay away from all of that. But, my paranormal experiences tells me there's something else going on. There are ghosts, there are demons, and I've read a couple of books from psychiatrists and psychologists that talk about spirit attachments and how they affect your lives. And I kind of believe that that's true.
Yeah, I hear my dog barking for some crazy reason.
My dog's sleeping by the door.
I don't know why he's barking. I hope he's okay. He's down here in my game room. He never barks. My dog never barks. He's a puppy, and he never barks.
Well, so they see a deer or something. My dog goes crazy when he sees the deer in the front of the house.
Yeah, I know this is embarrassing. Wait a minute, please come down. My family. I don't know why he's acting crazy. Let me see. Ozzy is barking. I don't like leaving you know what I mean, puppy? Okay, I'm sorry about that, folks. This is, live TV. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him on, and we're going to talk about this with Craig. Craig, did I screw up your name before I introduce you?
No, Craig Meriwether, exactly right.
Okay, great. Well, great. Well, we have Craig Meriwether. He's on the show, and he does spiritual healing, guiding. He's also an author too, guiding clients through past life discovery, spirit world exploration, and deeper connection with guides and ancestors. As a founder of the Sacred Mystery, he offers one-on-one past life regression sessions, workshops, and multi-day retreats, both nationally and internationally, and he helps people unlock transformation and soul wisdom. Okay, we have you. Now, how about that? So let me ask you, how did you get started with this? And is this, are you a psychologist? Are you a...
No. Hypnotherapist. And in that realm, and I know there's a lot of baggage around the word hypnosis. That could be an entire 3-hour conversation right there. But in terms of this work, what I'm doing is using the power of somebody's subconscious mind to create healing. Subconscious mind knows how to heal. If you get a cut on your finger, a scrape on your knee, it knows how to digest your lunch, beat your heart. All these things, your subconscious mind knows how to do it. Just may be holding on to some emotional hurt and pain or armoring. Maybe it thinks it's the best way to keep it from happening again. And it's within those programming, if you will. It's not a word I'd like to use because of the implications around that and the baggage around that word. But it's more like the computer code your subconscious mind has to try to keep yourself safe. So in terms of hypnotherapy, it's not talk therapy, it's not psychotherapy, it's not counseling. It's using the power of your own subconscious mind to create healing, because your subconscious mind knows what to do. It does. It just, again, maybe using faulty instructions on how to keep yourself safe. In terms of the more deeper aspects of using this kind of techniques to go to the more spiritual side of it, in terms of how I got to this, I've always kind of been interested in the spiritual. I grew up Episcopalian, kind of Catholicism light. And I like the robes. I like the candles. I like the ceremony and the ritual. I also went to a Baptist school from 6th grade to 12th grade. So I kind of have this conflicting philosophies around Christianity growing up. Those two things, while they may seem alike, they really are not. And it got confusing at times. But that was my upbringing, that kind of little shoebox of Christianity. And it was by moving up to Santa Cruz, California. I grew up in San Diego. And it was by going up to UC Santa Cruz in the early 90s that my world just started opening up more and more. And I hate to use a cliche of the melting pot, but that area of the world brings in people from all over the place. And, San Francisco is about 90 minutes to the north. Of course, there's Silicon Valley right there, Stanford and Mountain View and Cupertino. And it brings people from around the world. And between just, weekend festivals of music and food trucks and dance and, just taking a Zen meditation class and then, doing a yoga class and an African dance class, my worldview started opening up more and more as you kind of drip, slow drip into learning about other people, other thoughts, philosophies, theories. My philosophies around the world started changing as well. And, just being a curious person, just started researching more, looking more into it. And, one aspect of my learning that I wasn't brought up with, reincarnation, which, in some aspects would include past life regression. And that's something that Episcopalian guy from San Diego, California didn't have much access to or understanding of, where a lot of the other parts of the world do have some sort of, again, philosophy or theories, thoughts around reincarnation and past lives that actually integrate not only to their spirituality, but into their culture, whether that's ancestor veneration or actual reincarnation, like the Dalai Lama reincarnating as the same person over and over again, or just accessing past lives. That was something new to me. And it sort of, again, that slow drip, expanding my awareness of that in terms of my own healing. I dealt with a lot of anxiety and depression growing up. And through my own research and studying and trying to get better, one of the things that came up was hypnotherapy. Again, using the power of your own subconscious mind to create healing. And I started using that and created some healing in my life, some deep healing. And so all those kind of worlds started merging for me until finally, some years ago, I decided to pivot in how I work in the world, and was fascinated by consciousness and healing, as well as spiritual things and time and space and how one might be able to access that through past life regression, and started doing some training, and here we are. I guess that's kind of
Interesting. Like, how does past life regression, excuse me, work? Like, how do you know for sure you have a past? I mean, does everybody have a past life, or is this something that only a few people have? And do they recall their past life? Or you can bring them into some kind of a trance and they can recall their past life?
Yeah, there's lots of theories around it, and I can't say I have the definitive answer on life, the universe, and everything, especially as something as extraordinary as how does the soul work and what
Yeah.
happens in life after death. But I focus a lot of my work on the research of others. I stand on the shoulders of giants. One of those people is Dr. Michael Newton. He has passed, I think, 2011. But his story is fascinating. You can read about him and his work in Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls, kind of volume 1, volume 2 there. But in 1969, he accidentally regressed somebody back to soul life and spirit world. Now, Michael Newton was a psychotherapist, and he was using hypnotherapy to regress somebody back to childhood. That's what he was expecting to happen, wanted to deal with some hurt and some pain, some trauma this person was going through, thought the next best step would to be use some hypnotherapy to regress them back to childhood, to a memory. That's all he was trying to do, regress somebody back to a memory. But instead of going to childhood, the guy kept going. And he went past childhood, he went past being a newborn, he went past being in utero, and he ended up returning to a memory of being a soul, of spirit, not a human being, not here on planet Earth, but just in that soul state, in that spirit realm, what Michael Newton ended up calling life between lives. And he created deep healing while he was having that memory and that experience. So Michael Newton, fascinated about this, a curious individual, decided to look into that, and he started researching, working with other people. Was it possible to get other people into this state of mind, of body, of spirit, and access that realm as well? And so he started working with people in the early 70s, and he created this protocol of being able to get people consistently back into that state. And as he's working with people, he noticed that not everybody, but most people were having similar experiences. Now, this is 1970s. There's no cell phones. We're not texting each other. There's no internet. There's no AI where you can get this information. These people didn't know each other. They're from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different cultures, different parts of the country, different age groups. And yet they're having similar experiences that he could not explain. So, and it's not that you work with one person, two people, or three people. He worked with thousands of people over 20 years. And that's when he wrote his first book, Journey of Souls, 1992. Then he spent another decade working with thousands of people. And it seems odd to say, oh, we work with thousands. Sure, he did. Well, 365 days a year over the course of 20, 30 years. Yes, you're working with thousands of people. And they're all having similar, not again, I say all, but most people were having very similar experiences to each other. He wrote his second book after a decade's worth of research called Destiny of Soul, which released in 2001, 2002. He created the Michael Newton Institute, created more research. The Michael Newton Institute released a book a couple years ago of new research. So for 55 years, they've been doing this research with tens of thousands of people at this point. And it's that consistency of getting the same results over and over again. Now, again, I can't in and of itself prove one thing or another, but we all seem to, and we can talk about the biology of this, what's going on in the brain and the theories behind that. But that people are continually accessing these states and having these experiences and creating deep emotional healing through it, even physical healing. I opened up my book with a person I'd worked with who told me a few days after I was checking up on her, seeing how her experience was, how she's doing, told me that 20 years of chronic hip pain was now gone. Even though she didn't tell me she had any hip pain, she healed it herself while having this deep emotional experience. And so 1, 2, 3, but when you're having tens of thousands of people having this experience, and with all the other research going on between, is this a computer simulation? Is this a holographic universe theory? Is this a multiverse theory? All this stuff on top of what's potentially going on in the brain and non-local consciousness, remote viewing. I mean, the subject is huge. And in terms, can everybody do this? I don't see why they can't. It's sort of that idea, all we're accessing is a memory. We're not taking somebody back in time like teleporting somebody on Star Trek, only teleporting somebody back in time. We are accessing a memory, and not unlike if I was to ask somebody who's listening, or John, you, or you, Jenny, tell me about lunch you had with your friend last Tuesday. Tell me about the cafe. What did it look like? What did you eat? What did you talk about? What were you wearing? But if you had an experience of a big dinner, a big party or something, you would remember. What happened on Halloween? Even if you just passed out candy, what happened on Thanksgiving, you'd have that memory. Even if I asked you about Thanksgiving last year, you'd have some sort of memory. It's not that you returned to Thanksgiving or to Halloween or to that lunch or to that meeting, but you had a memory. Or if I'd ask you about high school, what happened, high
I
school
don't want to
prom, what did
remember high
you wear,
school.
who did you go with, and what kind of music was playing? Were you doing sports? Did you do music? Did you do theater? Did you smoke cigarettes behind the gym? Were you a loner and just left midway
Yeah.
through the day? You remember that stuff. You do. And so I can even ask people, earliest memories. Maybe they're 8, maybe they're 5, maybe they're 1 years old. All we're doing is going a bit further. So right now we're kind of in the shallow end of the pool, asking about lunch, asking about high school, asking about earliest memories. Have you ever been to Disneyland? Tell me about your memories of that. All we're doing is going into the deep end of the pool. It's the same pool. We're just kind of expanding and moving a bit deeper.
Okay, so how do you know for sure it's not a false memory? And do you have to be in a trance? Like, I mean, I have memories, and my parents would tell me, "Oh, that never happened. You have false memories." So how do you know that these aren't false memories?
Yeah. You don't, to a certain extent, and then that's probably a disappointing answer. But in and of itself, is it a real past life that you're experiencing that you had, or is it a manifestation of the subconscious mind to create some healing? And that's a head scratcher, unless you're getting specific, verifiable information that you did not know beforehand, that you can then look into the history books or however that is done, your genealogy or something like that. Specifically, how would you know? So that's why the work I do specifically focuses on the healing that the person wants to achieve, or the insights or discoveries the person wants to help them move forward in this life. Because the subconscious mind, I mean, Freud said this, Carl Jung said this, Milton Erickson, Lauren Fitzgerald said this, the subconscious mind's language is symbolism, metaphor, allegory, storytelling. And so, yeah, it may be creating some sort of allegory or storytelling to create the healing you are looking for. So in and of itself, unless you can get great, significant, accurate, detailed information that you can later prove, really, then it's about the healing that someone can. And oftentimes, people don't get that accurate information. So the issue then comes: is it real or is it not real? And William James had a quote. William James, one of the pioneers of modern psychotherapy, said that to prove that not all crows are black, you only need one white crow. So really, you only need one person to be able to prove that they have had a past life and a past life regression. I think that was proved remarkably well in Brian Weiss's book, Many Lives, Many Masters, and written by a left brain analytical academic who has a chemistry degree from Columbia, has a MD from Yale, was head of psychiatry at Mount Sinai in Miami, and he didn't believe it, that he accidentally regressed somebody into a past life. But the deep emotional healing this person had, that he writes about in his book, who he had been working with for a year due to her deep anxiety and her fears, worked with her for a year. Then, well, let's do some hypnotherapy. We'll regress back to childhood. Maybe that will help the situation, quote unquote, accidentally regressed, or she kept going past being a newborn back to a past life, created such deep emotional healing, had verifiable facts that Brian Weiss became a true believer.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but is there such a thing as a first life? And the infinite cycle of the life cycle?
Yeah, and again, this is sort of like of a Neanderthal 3D brain trying to understand the entirety of the universe and the soul and everything that happens. But one would, in terms of like the work of Michael Newton and others, one theory behind all this is that, yeah, we're born as a baby new soul, and that we're put into these groups of souls. And again, this is coming from the work of Michael Newton, Newton Institute, and others. And verified if you will, by thousands of people having the similar experiences of being placed into a group of souls, like your soul family, your soul group, your soul mates.
John, excuse me, John, what do you think about this? Because you're like skeptical about this kind of stuff. What do you think of what he's talking about here?
I'm actually not skeptical about it, because I've had a lot of experiences that goes against what the Catholic Church has said should happen, with hauntings and different things. So, I'm not, my question is like, I wonder if I have an attachment, rather than past lives. I mean, the only thing that happened with me once at work, I had to sign all the claim payments over $5,000. I started to sign. I signed it like I started to sign a different name, Joe, and then I stopped. And I, what the hell are you doing? Like a different name came in my head. I wish I would have signed the last name. Then I could have done some research. But, my brother is absolutely convinced that he has past lives. And years ago, he would tell me that he remembers, and I can't remember, what to tell you, but he has had a lot of past life type memories, But my question is, how does somebody know when they get an attachment? Does something change? How do you know when all of a sudden an attachment takes place?
That's another great question. And it's one of those, I don't think there's a one size fits all kind of answer to that, because there's so many aspects to this work. I mean, just in terms of, let's keep our feet on the ground of planet Earth, that may be affecting a person in that way, in terms of, and I'm not trying to be ridiculous or anything, but just in terms of diet and hormone change and getting older, and the changes that we go through, as well as the deep and hurt and pain that may be starting to bubble up, let alone moving a little bit further into the deeper end of the pool and saying, what if, for whatever reason, that person has magnetized to them some sort of energy, entity, or some other thing. Now, is that some sort of demon possession kind of situation? Is that just some sort of connection to a past life that needs to be disconnected or resolved in some way? And so a lot of it is asking the questions during a process. Now, you asked actually, Jenny, a little while ago. I never really answered the question. Do people need to be in this hypnosis state? Do they need to be in a trance state, an altered state of consciousness? Not really. I had a pretty spectacular kind of spontaneous past life regression without really, lying down on a couch or being in a recliner. And it was pretty profound for me. I don't think people even really in and of itself need to use a guide or a therapist. You can have these experiences. It's oftentimes helpful to use a recording of some sort. The issue with going with a facilitator or a guide or someone to help out a past life regressionist is that they can help guide. And if there is some sort of person gets stuck, there's a wall, can they go over it, under it, around it? And I mean, kind of a metaphoric wall. They may get stuck moving forward. The regressionist is there to help move into maybe another scene, or if it's really intense, maybe turn down the volume, so to speak, or stop it and move into another safer part of the past life, let alone moving through the death in that past life and maybe up into spirit world, if that's what the person wants to experience and feels it necessary. What's nice about the spirit world is such a lovely, wonderful place. You're in spirit, you're in the soul realm. And it's sort of just like sitting in a jacuzzi. Who wants to get out of the jacuzzi? So it's also nice to have somebody there okay, you spend a couple of minutes in the jacuzzi. We need to move forward, and you have this list of questions you want answered. Let's start answering the questions. Because you're in this trancey state, you're in this altered state of consciousness. It's sometimes hard to remember those questions you wanted to ask or the people you wanted to find out about a link to. So that's why it's helpful you can do this on your own. You can use a recording, but sometimes it's nice if you want the deeper experience to work with somebody.
It seems like to me, whenever we have guests on, the West Coast people always have this positive, we are the world, they're here to help. I've never had a positive experience with a spirit. Mine have all been malevolent.
Good
All
Lord.
annoying. So some people said, well, maybe your personality draws them in. I don't know. But I've never had this, we are the world, invite them to dinner. But mine have always been annoying. And, I had my house 7 years ago exorcised, and I finally got rid of a malevolent entity. But I said, I was visiting my kids in Missouri last week, and I said to my son, the demon has been out of the house, but there's ghostly activity, there's knocking, and I live next to a cemetery, and I believe that's where that comes from. I actually reasoned with them at one point, and they left. The knocking went down the hallway, lighter. They were gone for about 6 months, but they're back again. But I had something happen about maybe 8 weeks ago. I auditioned for a TV series on the Hollow Earth. And I got the part, and so I'm doing a lot of research. I'm doing a lot of research on it. So now in my mind, and a lot of times I'm talking out loud, the Hollow Earth is an opportunity to tell the truth about the UFO phenomenon, about cryptids, about a lot of things that they don't come from space. They're here they're coming up from the Hollow Earth, like spirits, demons, whatever, So I'm sitting in my rec room right over there. The 2 lights are on, the one above the pool table, and then the dome lights. And I'm watching the baseball game while I'm reading, because baseball's boring. I only have to look up once every 10, 15 minutes to see action, So I'm sitting there reading the Hollow Earth book, and I'm really into this. All of a sudden, both light switches turn off. So my brain, I said, it blew a fuse. But I looked up, the TV was still on. So I get up and I put the lights on. I go in the garage, I check the panel, all the fuses are fine, right? So I finish my research, maybe it's an hour later, let the dog out, whatever. I go upstairs to brush my teeth to go to bed, and I put the bathroom light on, and there had to be over 100 little black flies emerge from behind my huge mirror on the bathroom wall. So I ran downstairs, got sprayed, and I sprayed the top, I sprayed the bottom, and I killed them. I got a picture of it. Because
you sure you don't have a dead body in your house?
That's what my son said. He said, take the mirror off the wall and see. I said, the wall was like, what, 8 inches wide? They ain't no dead bodies there. I've lived here 27 years. But, the black fly thing is traditionally been, a marker of the demonic, the Omen, the Amityville Horror, that type. But my point was, I said to my son, now I haven't had any demonic activity. I know when it's here, and so does my dog. When something preternatural is here, there's some scratching sounds, I'll lay down, there's 2 bangs on the wall. I know when there's something here. My dog reacts to it also. So I said, is this thing always attached to me? Like, here I am reading a book on the Hollow Earth so I can get caught up, do my research. And it's so angry because it knows what I'm going to do, because I'm maybe the only UFO expert out there who says that the UFO thing, the aliens, are demons. They're not positive. That's what it is. And I'm going to out it in this show. And now the thing heard it. But I said to my son, it's like, what is this thing always here? And things happen. Like in August, I had been asked to speak at the Edgar Cayce Institute back in April. And so everything is set. We've discussed, I booked my timeshare. They were going to reimburse me rather than stay in their hotel. Everything is set. A month before the event, they canceled me. Your politics are too far right.
Oh,
there's a particular guy who hounds me. He's in Missouri, and anytime I'm scheduled to speak at a advertised event, he tries to get me canceled. And he's about 50% effective, because I don't hold back when it comes to progressives and a lot of other different things. I tell you exactly what I think. But it's like I say to myself, well, that's the same demonic thing. They're always trying to stop me. But the question for my son was, I said, how is it that, like, let's say for months there'd been no activity? And I actually just recently went 14 months. Everything was beautiful. And I don't live on the West Coast. There were no noises, no nothing on the 10-year anniversary of it showing up in 2014. So 2024 to about the middle of 2025, everything was fine. So is this thing attached to me now? Because it's been with me since I moved from Oklahoma in 1990. So maybe after, 35 years, it's been with me so long, it's attached and you can't get rid of it. So what do you think?
Yeah, that's pretty extraordinary. Did it all start when have you lived in this place since then, or you move around?
Well, yeah, I moved a couple of times with work, but I didn't have these problems in New York. It's a weird story. I worked in Europe. We were supposed to move there. My wife said no, but the last day I was there, I got finished early, and my wife was mad at me because I spent Thanksgiving in Germany. So I was done, and I tried to change my flight from December 22nd to December 21st. And they wanted $600 for one day, so I didn't do it. Well, that plane flight was Pan Am 103 that got blown up.
Whoa.
So wow. I say to my kids, is this a Final Destination thing? Like, it's almost like from, that point on. And then they punished me by sending me to Oklahoma City, which was the nicest thing you could have done. I loved it there. Yeah. But there were two instances there. One, we heard three footsteps 3 times. That's a demonic marker. And then one time I heard an Indian chant in the hallway with male voice. It went, oh, like it was doing a chant. But from there, we went to New Jersey. That house was flat out totally haunted. Or I brought something back with me.
Probably brought something back.
Because I took some things from the house, all the chandeliers. They were really nice. So since I lost money on the house, I took all the chandeliers. So maybe they attached. I don't know. But the New Jersey house, the first day we moved in, all the moving boxes were sliding around the garage floor. People who came to visit, well, my sister and her family, my girlfriend, myself, we saw a rolling cloud. It was alive. It was alive. Go across the ceiling. You could just see it like in some of these movies. They actually get it right. My daughter, my girlfriend heard a rocking chair with baby crying. There were so many things. So then I moved here, and from day one, just like there was this constant. As soon as I lay down to bed, 10 seconds, that there's the constant knocking in the hallway, banging. But I took care of that. I reasoned with them because I read a book by a psychologist who said, "Don't scream at them." The St. Michael prayer. And bind them and talk to them. And I did. And I'm telling you, that thing left. But there's something very malevolent still comes back and checks on me or is attached to me.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like it was quiet. And then I'm doing this thing for this TV role. And I am going to out the truth about UFOs and a lot of things because, the Old Testament talks about hell being under the earth and even paradise. That's the way it was in the Old Testament. But I think that these cryptids, Bigfoot, a lot of things, the aliens, they come from below. They don't come from they're not coming from space. They're coming maybe from a different dimension. I don't necessarily believe the Hollow Earth stories that you have other races of people and species under the ground. I don't really believe that. But I think there's an interdimensional aspect to that, but I can't get rid of this thing. Here I am trying to do this and it shows up. And I took a picture because I know if I say that to people, they're going to think you're nuts. And it's not the only picture I have of trace evidence that's been left behind by this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you reached out to your, Catholicism?
Well, yeah. Well, that's a funny story. When it happened in 14. Well, I met this woman and she was very religious. She drove it out for about 6-7 months. She knew all the prayers, had her own holy water and everything, but it came back even stronger. It took me probably 6 to 8 months to get my priest. I kept going to the church saying, I need some help here. There's something in my house. So he comes by and he's like a 35-year-old priest. And he says, I can only do a blessing. Right. And he threw holy water all over the place. I actually said to him, you're going to run out of holy water. And he looked at me and he said, I can make more. I said, I forgot. You're right. You can make more, but then I started asking him questions. I said, my father did a lot of things. He served time in prison. I said, do you believe in sins of the father, that it gets passed down to generations to resolve? Everything is, you got to even things out. He turned to me and he said, the devil's not real. It was put it was put in the Bible to scare people straight. I said, I looked at him. I didn't say anything. I said to myself, this ain't going to work. It didn't, because I don't know what kind of priest he was or the things he was doing. He certainly didn't believe in the things I believe in and what the real Catholic Church believes in. So it didn't last. And then from there, it went for another year or so until a friend of mine was filming a movie called The Exorcism Prayer. 5 ministers, pastors, and 5 cases. And he wanted me as the 5th case. And the deal was he'll bring an exorcist minister down from Sharon, PA to the house. They'll film me telling what's going on in the house. And then he blessed me and he exorcised the house and it left. But this thing was a melt. This thing was, I'm talking about, if you saw the Exorcist movie, for 2 years straight, I went to bed at night, every night, pounding on the walls, movement in the ceiling, can like creaking in the corner like you're crushing a soda can. This went on for like 2 years every night, and me calling it out with prayers and binding it, and he got rid of it. I know that stuff is all real, but I constantly, it's almost like every 4 months, 6 months, something happens, and then something happens very negative. Like all the batteries die in my jet skis, my snowmobile, and my car, my tractor. They all seem to die at the same time because that thing is present, But there's just so many negative things. So, I say, how do I get rid of this thing? Or is it just part of me now? Is it attached to me? Like some of these books I've read where, you're an alcoholic, so you attract a spirit that's an alcoholic, and it makes your addiction worse. Same thing with drug users, and you've got something attached. But I seem to have something attached since we moved to Oklahoma, and I didn't take that flight, Pan Am 103, and I can't seem to get rid of it.
Isn't Pope John Paul II an exorcist?
Yeah, but ain't he dead?
Oh, I know he's dead now, but I'm just saying that's still a part of the.
Oh yeah,
isn't it?
Oh no, they do. I've had a couple exorcists on the show. Father Rossetti, he was on it. He's a exorcist, and actually he just did a series on Hello. It was really fascinating on how to protect yourself and your family from having this demonic stuff. But before we let you go, I want to ask you what I see. What is, how can I say this? What is there such a thing as soul contracts? And when you say that you can connect with your ancestors, like how would they connect? Let's start with the soul contract. What is it?
So again, going back to the work of Michael Newton, I highly recommend those books along with my own.
I read both of his.
Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls. And they talk a lot about the soul contracts in there. And it sounds ominous but really the idea behind it is that we come to Earth again and again. We're having these lives for our learning, our growth, our development. We're doing this as, we talked a little bit ago about, okay, well, maybe we created as these souls, and we need to learn, and we need to grow, and we need to develop and become better souls, better spirits, maybe learning things that we're going to need somewhere else, as if Earth is some sort of, flight simulator. And just like, starting off in the first grade, you're not learning high math in the first grade. You're learning 2 + 2 = 4 in the first grade. Second grade, you're going to learn some multiplication tables. Third grade, you're learning some long division. Fourth grade, you're doing fractions. That you're getting into high school. You're learning algebra 2, calculus, trigonometry, until you're getting into the university. You're getting your master's degree in mathematics, and you do those crazy Goodwill Hunting equations on the chalkboard.
Mhm.
So it takes this time. And if you looked at each grade as a life, and you're just learning and you're growing and you're developing, and maybe sometimes it doesn't go so well. Maybe the learning didn't get completed, and just like having to repeat the 6th grade, or you have to go to summer school, you have to get tutoring, or you're in college and the chemistry class didn't go well, so you have to repeat the class over again. Or maybe we're just finding different scenarios. Okay, well, we tried it this way. What if we change rules, or what if we add this new element to try to learn in an even different way? And so the idea behind a soul contract or a soul agreement is that we're, to a certain extent, this is somewhat planned out. And I know it gets a little mind twisty, especially if people have had serious issues in life. They grew up in a home that wasn't safe. They had some trauma. They had some abuse. It's like, why would you ever choose to go through
Yeah,
that? And I'm
seriously.
saying that people do, but it's also maybe there is some aspect of learning and growth that needed to happen through a horrible experience that may help release or move you forward. And again, it's a mind twister, and it's hard to wrap your head around sometimes. But the idea behind a soul contract is not unlike maybe a community theater. Every town has a community theater, and they're going to decide at the beginning of the year, we're going to do this play. And there's going to be these characters, and they're going to learn and grow. By the end of the play, they're going to be these different people. And who's going to play what role, and what costumes are we going to wear?
Mhm.
And then they do this play, and all these characters learn, and they do it. And then they take a rest. And then they decide in March, we're going to do a totally different play. We're going to play different characters. And these characters are going to learn and grow in a different way. They're the same people, the same actors,
Mhm.
but they're just now playing a different role, wearing different costumes in a play that's set in a different time, maybe in a different part of the world. And so the agreement there is that, okay, we're going to do this play. We're going to play these roles. Sometimes, the light falls in the middle of the stage. Sometimes, somebody forgets their line. Sometimes the prop isn't where it's supposed to, maybe not every time it works the way it was supposed to. And so there's some need to flow and dance with it, and have some ways of maneuvering around the issues that might come up in a free will kind of way. But it may be that, just to say, the theory behind, what if you chose your parents?
Mhm.
I mean, how would that enlighten, enhance, or make things a little different if your mother is the way she is, or your father is the way he is? How did you have to be? Did you have to protect yourself? Did you have to learn how to armor yourself? Or was it maybe a more pleasant experience? Who did you have to become because your mother is the way she is, or your father is the way he is, or how you grew up, or what's happening now in your relationships? And so again, it's a bit mind twisty, and it can
Mhm.
be hard to wrap your head around it. But the idea of that, maybe to a certain aspect, we agreed to this.
Do
Maybe.
you think that these soul groups stay together, that in the next life, I'm the father, my father's my son, or my wife is a male and I'm
Yeah.
the wife? And
Yeah,
she's
that's the idea, is that we're souls, and that we choose these parts. That's part of the agreement, part of it. That's part of the contract. Again, not unlike being a theater troupe of 8, 9 actors. You're going to choose the story. You're going to choose how you're going to, these characters are going to grow with this story you're going to tell, and then you're going to choose who plays what.
But you
And
think it stays together? It's the same soul group?
that's again, the Michael Newton books seem to indicate that's it. Now,
It's going to take me 40 lifetimes to fix my parents and my ex-wife.
Yeah, but maybe you're not the one who has to fix them. Maybe
Yeah, well,
you
I
know.
don't know who else is strong enough.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then maybe that is maybe out of the 200 lives you've lived so far, 40 of them have been repeating this lesson over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, you know, maybe it's just an aspect of, okay, we tried it that way. Let's switch roles. Yeah. And maybe next time you are mom or you are, you know, in the relationship.
You know, I actually, and I don't want to get too off
Yeah.
color or anything. I think wrote in one of my books that because of these past lives and that type of switching roles, that's why some people are gay or lesbian, because they recall, you know, something recalled from another life that when they were the man or they were the woman. And that's part of, like, it's not really in your DNA, it's in your soul's DNA. That could be part of explaining that.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's a new one for me. But and that's the hard thing of this. I think this kind of 3D brain of ours kind of gets a peek behind the curtain every now and then.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, you know, the four blind men and the elephant, and one of them has a snake, one of them has a piece of string, the other has a tree trunk kind of thing, and they don't get the entirety of the elephant because they're only got a little tiny bit of it. And I think that's what we do. And I think even to the point of we're learning and we're growing and we're developing as souls, and we come back again and again, first grade, second grade, all the way through high school. And maybe all we can see at this point, because of this 3D brain of ours, is that we're getting to high school graduation.
Yeah.
And what's beyond that? Maybe we're not able to understand. You know, if you saw that movie Interstellar, Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway, and not to give anything away, but that's a pretty old movie. But at the end, you know, he's in this kind of 5D world trying to communicate with the 3D world, you know, and it's like, is that what's happening here? And we can only get bits and pieces. He has to communicate by pushing the books off the shelf or the watch or the dust on the floor and all that, not to give anything away, but it's as if we're trying to pull in this digital information through an analog brain. And maybe it's not all it's clear. Maybe we can't understand the entirety of it because of the mechanisms of our biology. But I'm thinking we're just getting a tiny little peek behind the curtain. And issues like what you're going through, John, there's probably obvious explanations to it, but maybe they're so complex and so intense and so deep that we can only get a little understanding of it. And doing things like you're doing or maybe still need to do are important, but we won't be able to get full understanding with you know.
I had another thought along this line, and I know I put it in one of my books too, is that when people have a deja vu moment, like I took my kids to Italy, and we were in Florence. We turned the corner and I stopped dead in my tracks. I absolutely recognized the plaza, the buildings. I said, I have been here before. Yeah. But so, you know, what I had said in one of my books was that when you have deja vu, some people say it's a past life, but I also think that when your soul is waiting to be born, you're watching Earth, or you're watching your family group or something. You know,
maybe
three of my relatives were from Italy, so it's not really deja vu from my past life. It was deja vu from my great grandfather who lived in that area. So I'm watching them, and maybe that's where they hung out and they had coffee. You know, so that's my deja vu, but it was an observing one, not an actual one for me.
Yeah, and again, the possibilities are quite extensive on how this all works. I mean, even just to look at the remote viewing. I mean, I know that's a whole nother, 5-hour conversation in and of itself. But I don't think the government would have spent decades and millions of dollars, let alone what the Soviet Union was doing, if it didn't work, which kind of implies that consciousness is non-local, meaning, it's not held within this brain. It's not housed within this hotel room of this skull of ours, but that it's able to move across time and space. And they were moving, they were seeing the Soviet submarine. They were seeing underground bunkers. and they were moving into the future. They were moving into the past. And again, if that's possible, what else are we able to do? And again, I don't think they would have, if that didn't work, that program would have been shut down in 6 months. They would have spent $200 on it, and they were just, okay, well, let's try something else.
Yeah. Now a lot of those remote viewers, they were very drained psychologically, drained physically.
Yeah.
And some of them had to get out of it because they were fearing for their mental health and their health, because it was like drawing all of their life force out of them. But have you ever had that type of experience, or in working with somebody actually encountered something very malevolent?
Not specifically in terms of a being or things. I've had people had very intense experiences, but again, that's where working with somebody with experience and training to move through intense experiences, and again, create that healing or the resolution around that. Something I mentioned in the book, a story that was told to me when I was getting some training, is the person who was doing the training was talking about, they were talking to a friend, this was probably the early 1990s, late 1980s, about, I'm going to become a hypnotherapist. I'm getting some training and I'm going to focus on past life regression. And his friends thought, my ex-wife went to a past life regression. And it was just kind of for fun, just to explore and be curious and discover. And that's fine. And that's wonderful. It's a great way to go about it. And she went to this person and she had this past life experience of being back in the Middle Ages or medieval times. And she was a female in that time period too. And she was in this community that was being pressed down the boot on their throats. And so she was trying to create a resistance, and she had a very loud mouth, and wanting to make an example of her and to quash the kind of rebellion that she was kind of helping to stir up, is they threw her in jail and tortured her to death and starved her to death. Now, this is her past life memory that she's having. And she realized that the jailer who was torturing her to death and starving her to death over the course of 4 or 5 months was her husband in this life. And they got divorced
like Outlander.
Yeah, but they got divorced a month later.
Wow.
Now, I'm going to assume there's other issues in that relationship, but this was at the very least the final straw. And there's a divorce decree in Santa Fe County, New Mexico, that mentions a past life regression as part of the issues of why they're no longer together, because there's no healing, there's no resolution to that. Yeah. Now, if there was a soul contract there, that probably was. It's like, well, okay, I'll play the part of the jailer. There's sometimes got to be a villain in order to create a story that can resolve into a good place. There oftentimes needs to be a villain. And so who's going to play it? What kind of extraordinary being is going to say, okay, well, I guess I'll play that role, and then come back in another life and say, okay, well, let's be husband and wife and see if we can't resolve or move or dance in a new way and learn something else. But because that hurt and that pain was still there, and that connection was still there, that thread was still there, it ended up destroying the relationship because there was no resolution during that process. There was no healing. There was no therapy to it. And so do they have to do it again now? Do they now have to go to repeat the grade once again and repeat this lesson? Maybe they'll switch gender roles. Maybe they'll do it in some other way. But if that didn't get resolved, are they going to have to do it again?
Tony. Yeah. Well, we're going to have to move on. It was great having you on the show. How can people find your information and your books?
If they're interested in, I'm happy to talk with people, or email, we'll Zoom call, we'll get on a phone call. Happy to talk about this with people. Sacred Mystery Hypnotherapy.com, or the short link, just sacredhypno.com. You can find the book, Past Lives Guidebook, on Amazon. And yeah, happy to answer any questions people might have.
Fascinating. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on Chasing Prophecy. Jane. We'll have to have you back on.
Definitely.
And talk more about past life regression. You have a great night.
All right. Thanks.
Well, I tell you what, John, we're going to, I don't know. I think maybe a lot of your problems stem from the fact that you are probably coming back and reliving. Maybe you did something with an alien or a demon. I don't know.
No,
Maybe you were a
I've
demon.
asked that. I'm trying to get that from the priests and from these people in the field. Is there? It's not something I did, but something that a parent or a grandparent. See, I think if you do something like you kill somebody, let's say that one was in the mafia and they did some stuff. I think that some of that has to come back at you, and
Maybe.
I think DNA and your kids and grandkids is all very much involved in that. And I have some friends who say you have memories passed through DNA,
Hmm.
and I told them, well, you got to remember those memories can only be of you passed on, up to the point you had kids. All the memories
Yeah.
after 25, they ain't passed on. But, I said, did it something that a parent, because I kind of think my one grandfather was in the mafia and, my father was in a gang in Manhattan. They did some stuff and he has said it. But so did, like, he talks about this. So soul contract was who's going to take the brunt of this now. And it wasn't my sister. She would flip out. My brother, not either. So I'll do it. So now this
Yeah.
battling with this demon for now it's been 10 straight years of this malevolent thing. Maybe it was because I was the one that could handle it, and it's like a soul contract.
Maybe. I always wonder about that. But you know what, John? Like, how like he was talking about people chose their life. I can't. I find that hard to hard to take in. Like if you were abused or you were taken by a serial killer. Do you think they really chose that kind of life?
I don't know
I
what
don't.
the learning point of that would be to be,
I don't know.
like all the people that went to Auschwitz. Why would you choose that if
Yeah.
you
Why
knew it
would
was
you
gonna
choose
happen?
that? Why would you
You know?
choose like Jeffrey Dahmer's
Yeah.
victim or something
Yeah,
like that?
or why would you choose to be a baby that dies at birth and
Yeah. I don't
your,
get it.
your
I
mind
don't
can't
get
even
it.
accept, you wouldn't even have a memory of it. So
I
I don't
know.
know. I don't know
I
what that
don't know
stuff,
about
but
that.
I know that there's something spiritual goes on. And, even the Catholic Church says all there is demons out there because humans either go take the long sleep, but Jesus did say you wander in the outer darkness. And I believe that's the spirit world. And I think they're able to contact you. I really do think they're
Maybe.
able to make noises like the movie Ghost.
Yeah.
They're
Oh,
there
yeah. I
and they're
definitely
trying
believe
to get your
that.
attention and they can move a spoon or mine can absolutely tap on the wall. I mean, they've been doing that
Yeah.
for 27
Somebody's doing
years.
that.
They've been doing that
Somebody's
for
doing that.
27 years, tapping on the
Uh,
walls.
okay. Well, for the last couple minutes we have, I want to show you some videos and talk about the updates on 3i Atlas. I know that's your favorite topic.
Yeah.
Close to the sun, and NASA's telescopes are watching it closely right now. 3i Atlas also surprised astronomers by rapidly shining brighter, almost as if it wanted to announce its arrival to the universe. Currently, it is about 170 million miles
From us, and people can see it from the
3i Atlas is moving in a very strange
this is a
way,
good
and
one.
even faster than before.
Wait, where'd it go?
So you said it's sped up?
Wait a minute, let me just see. Where'd it go? I have it. Did something happen to it? It just got.
With an ordinary
This-
home telescope near the orbit
Oh,
of
where'd
Mercury,
it go?
it is already
Maybe this. I don't understand. I have a good one.
There
It's
is
just
a
playing it.
major update to 3i
Oh.
Atlas. And what do I mean by that? NASA will be releasing images and data on 3i Atlas. In my last video, where I updated you on 3i Atlas, I told you that Representative Anna Paulina Luna sent a letter to acting NASA Director Sean Duffy. And in that letter, she wanted Sean Duffy to get with NASA and release the images that they have and all information regarding 3i Atlas. And NASA responded to Representative Luna. In a statement she released on X, Anna Paulina Luna goes on to state, just had a good conversation with NASA regarding 3i Atlas. As soon as the government reopens, they'll be releasing images, data. Unfortunately, due to bureaucracy reasons, they cannot until then. So, does this confirm that NASA acknowledges 3i Atlas and the strange activity of 3i Atlas? So, I guess my question to you is, do you believe that NASA will release all the information they have on 3i Atlas, including images of 3i Atlas? Or is this just another stall tactic? And do you think they're actually hiding something? Do you still think we have something to be concerned about? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And as always,
Okay, John.
Where'd you get this guy from? He looks like he belongs in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I think he's one of the patients. But, you know,
Maybe.
what I think with that, now that's a good point. Maybe they're not releasing stuff till after the shutdown. But, you know, I'm saying to myself, well, okay, so maybe what it's made of is different than some other asteroids. Maybe it's got a high concentration of nickel or platinum or who knows what's in it, that as it gets closer to the sun, you know, there is some gravitational pull. So it's sped up, you know, and it's causing it to glow. You know, I don't know what it's made of, you know. But
well, they said it was made out of some really crazy stuff.
Yeah, so there you go. But I just don't think any of these are actual craft, you know. I mean, if the thing were to stop, you know, if it was passing by us or it comes around the sun, I don't know if it's just going to keep going.
Well, it sped up and it slowed back down. Now,
oh, it did change speed. Well, then
yes, it did. It did.
You know,
it did, and it's supposed to. Well, I would love to get.
An alien craft. Why don't it just do the right thing and come to a stop? Then we know it is that it is.
Well, there was one TikTok that was telling it actually has a signal, and they what do you call that? They translated it, I guess, and it was telling it they are from a different planet, but we are the ones who made human beings. And
no, they didn't make you. Aliens didn't make us. God made us.
Well, it's really. But I'm interested in it. I want to see it, so I'm going to get a telescope. I want to see it, so I want.
Here's the thing about telescopes: you can never get a strong enough one.
No matter they said you can see it really clear even with the telescope.
No matter what one you buy, there's always a more powerful one.
Yeah.
And once you see your friend has that one, you're going to want that one. You know, because I almost bought one too. I was going to get a real big one, put it in my attic because it got a skylight and stuff. You know, it's going to do something where. You know, and then it's like I went to the planetarium. People had their telescopes. I went from one to the next, and I kept saying, "Well, which one do I buy?" Because that guy's is bigger, and I could see everything.
Well, you know what they say. I just said, I'm not always better.
Yeah, I'm not buying anything. But so I don't know.
Well, we'll keep looking into the skies. Well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight, and John, thank you so much.
Yeah, and don't watch.
Oh, wait a minute, John. I want to. Oh, yeah. What?
Don't watch the skies. Look below, because that's.
Oh, you don't want to look below at the.
That's where they come from. It's not from.
I want to hear about your show, your series or whatever movie or.
Well, you know, they don't have a cable channel yet to do it, but you know, I flew to Vancouver and I filmed at least 2 episodes. I answered 26 questions and I gave them even more material. So I think I did the whole show right there. You know.
Oh, so it's a documentary? Do you have a title?
It's like
for
Ancient Aliens. There's 6 of us.
Okay. Do they have? What's the name of it going to be?
I can't tell you. I can't tell you till it's out.
Okay.
But I'm also teaching a UFO class at WCCC. Last night was the first week.
Oh, congratulations!
That was really good. There was 11 students, but it was really good. I enjoyed it.
Is this a non-credit or is this a credit?
No, non-credit in the evening. But I got so much material. I'll be able
You're late, Joe. We're done. You're done. We're over. Everybody starts coming in later. I do not want to do a later show.
But I'm still researching the Hollow Earth stuff. I'm reading my last book on it. I've read.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about. I thought that was fascinating. We have to come back. You have to just talk up one night. We have to just talk about Hollow Earth.
Yeah. Well, we did a show on that about 2 months ago.
Yeah, I know, but we got to talk more about it because I find it very interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot to it.
And did we have a guest on that on the Hollow Earth?
I can't remember. You on the Hollow Earth.
Yeah, we'll have to find somebody who like a researcher or something that you guys can debate. I like the debating shows. They're fun. Okay, guys. You always win. Okay.
That's what I told the political candidates and stuff. I said, I win debates. You know, I told the news station that too. I'm running. I win debates. That's what I do. All right. See ya.
Okay. We'll see you later, guys. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. Oops, he left.
Thanks for tuning in to Chasing Prophecy Radio, where nothing is beyond the scope of normal. Be sure to check us out on Facebook and YouTube for past episodes, live streams, and more. And if you'd like to be a guest or reach out, email us at chasingprophecyradio@gmail.com. Until next time, keep looking beyond the shadows